What's up, guys? Welcome to Line Change. And in this video, we're going to be going over the goals and expectations for Thatcher Demko in 2025-2026. I know it's been a few days since I put out a video. I decided to take, just a few days break, just to, enjoy some downtime. Obviously not enjoy the weather, as the weather was pretty bad, at least up until today. And for those of you that follow the channel and also happen to follow Clay's Canuck commentary, you would know that today was our summer meetup. So I obviously was hanging out with a whole bunch of people, including Clay. And that's another reason why there was no video posted yesterday. I figured I'd wait till today. So yeah, that is a reason for the few days of no content. You might be seeing that quite a bit over the next few weeks, especially if there's not a whole lot of content. I may just take a couple extra days off. Normally, I wouldn't post on a Sunday, at least as of late, but that is one reason why I didn't post yesterday on top of the meetup that I did. So, but without any further ado, before we go over this article talking about the goals and expectations for Thatcher Demko, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind my shoulder. And you guys can check them out yourselves at GassyJackArt.com. You can also find him on Instagram at Gassy Jack Art. I have a link to his website in the description down below. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. Of course, as always, brought to us by our friends at Canucks Army, and this article in particular is brought to us by a friend of the podcast, a guest on the podcast, as well as a future guest on the podcast, Mr. David Quadrelli, and he goes on to say there are a few X factors for the Vancouver Canucks heading into the 2025-2026 NHL season. If merely two of these things happen, the Canucks are almost certainly going to have a good season and will likely make the playoffs. One of those X factors, Thatcher Demko has a great season and remains healthy. Another one, Elias Pettersson bounces back and puts up 80-plus points. And then a third, if needed, Quinn Hughes continues to be this team's engine and is squarely in the Norris Trophy conversation once again. If three of those things happen, then the Canucks are likely to have a great season, similar to the one they turned in back in 2023-24 when, quote-unquote, everything went right. Those were the days. Enough daydreaming, let's dive into the next name on our list in our series of Canucks season previews, Thatcher Demko. Everyone knows how important Thatcher Demko is to the Vancouver Canucks. And in case you forgot, 2024-25 served as a good reminder. Even with Kevin Langton turning in solid goaltending that was more stellar than quote-unquote solid in the early parts of the season, the Canucks quite clearly missed their all-star goaltender. After finishing as the runner-up to Connor Hellebuyck for the Vezina Trophy in 2023-24, Demko didn't get a chance to train much during the summer of 2024. Instead, he was stuck searching for answers for a knee injury he suffered in the dying moments during the Canucks' first game of the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. The knee injury held him out until mid-December. Then on January 2nd, Demko exited versus Seattle with back spasms. That was a small injury, but an injury nonetheless. Then just over a month later, on February 8th, it was another injury, only this one was revealed to be a lower body injury that kept Demko out until the end of March. The end result? 2024-25 was something of a lost season for Thatcher Demko. So obviously people know that knee injury that he suffered in the playoffs last year. I mean, everyone knows the severity of it. Everyone knows that it was a injury that no one had heard of before. No professional athlete had dealt with before. It had to do with his, let's see if I can pronounce this properly, popliteus muscle, which is basically behind your knee. And yeah, it was an injury that no one had dealt with before, and he didn't know how to, it wasn't repairable via surgery. Demko's going to have to play with this, for the rest of his career. And he ended up, which we'll get into in a little bit, he ended up changing his training pattern and how he trains because of this injury. But let's take a look at what meeting expectations are for Thatcher Demko in 2025-26. Obviously, the hope and expectation to some extent is that Demko can at the very least put those health issues in the rearview mirror. Demko and the club both sounded confident that would be the case, with Jim Rutherford highlighting that Demko has changed the way he trained just months before signing Demko to a 3-year contract extension. And if that happens, the possibilities could be wide-ranging. Now let's take a look at, so we just talked about what meeting expectations are, and it's basically just staying healthy. Is essentially what meeting expectations are for Demko. Now, taking a quick glance further, what are exceeding expectations for Thatcher Demko in 2025-26? It's hard not to get excited about what a healthy season for Thatcher Demko could mean. Typically, when he's had a full offseason to train without having to worry about rehabbing any ailments, Demko turns in a remarkable season. 2023-24 is a perfect example of that. The trouble has been that his body has broken down towards the end of the season, meaning the Canucks would be wise to keep his total number of starts low, but that's a story for another day. Expectations are high for Demko, which means that exceeding expectations means he's right back to being a fairly clear-cut top 2 goaltender in the NHL, further leading the Canucks back to the playoffs, and keeping that same high level of play through the playoffs would fall into the quote-unquote exceeding expectations category. Statistically, a .915 save percentage or higher while remaining healthy is about as good of an outcome as any Canucks fan could hope for. Now, let's start taking a look at below expectations for Thatcher Demko. If the expectation for Demko is to remain healthy for the most part, then missing months of the season would be below expectations and would rightfully have fans, and likely the organization too, a bit worried about the financial commitment to the club just made to Demko, which is 3 years at $8.5 million. Similarly, if Demko is healthy but for some reason doesn't look like the elite goalie we've seen in the past, the concern level will raise even more, while the Canucks' winning percentage would do the opposite. There's a reason Demko found himself on our recent list of the 5 Canucks with the most pressure on them heading into 2025-26. We did a video on that. You guys can either check that out on the end screen, which is at the end of this video, or you guys can also check it out right here. And that's because the team absolutely needs him to be both healthy and at least near elite if they want to do anything that really matters next season. So that is the article about the goals and expectations for Thatcher Demko in 2025-26. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys' goals and expectations are for Thatcher Demko this upcoming season. Maybe not necessarily goals per se, but what are your expectations for Thatcher Demko? Like, what expectations would you consider exceeding, meeting, or below expectations, if you have any at all? And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us on social media, as you can see there, on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Van. You can find us on TikTok at the TLC Podcast. You can also find us on Blue Sky at The Line Change, and feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for me in this video. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.